Welcome to Star Watch Now, your front row seat to all the hottest gossip, drama, and breaking news from the world of entertainment. If it's trending, shocking, or star-studded, we're covering it. Stay tuned. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Two of Asia's most celebrated stars arrived at Cannes in shimmering traditional attire and left without a single step on the red carpet.
No interviews. No explanations.
Just silence. What happened? And why is the world still talking about it? This wasn't just a fashion controversy. It was a cultural turning point that shook the global stage and awakened something powerful in millions of hearts. Stay with us as we uncover the untold story behind Wang Yibo Xiao Zhan's mysterious Cannes 2025 disappearance and what it reveals about identity, pride, and the silent strength of those who dare to walk their own path. The world held its breath. All eyes were on the red carpet at Cannes Film Festival 2025, a stage famed not just for cinematic brilliance, but also for defining moments of global culture. As the crowd parted and the camera flashes intensified, Wang Yibo Xiao Zhan appeared, two towering icons of Chinese entertainment, stepping forward in stunning traditional-inspired ensembles that shimmered with history, elegance, and pride. But just as they approached the media spotlight, something unexpected happened. Without warning, their path was blocked. Officials stepped in, whispered words, and gestured for the two stars to pause. There was no announcement, no clear explanation, just a strange silence and confused murmurs in the crowd. Was it a technical glitch, a timing issue, or was something deeper at play? For those watching live, and especially for millions of loyal fans across Asia and around the world, this interruption felt less like a red carpet hiccup and more like a moment of quiet rejection. A moment that would soon ignite a global conversation about respect, identity, and the invisible lines that still divide East from West, even in the heart of the world's most celebrated cultural events. Sometimes what we wear says more than words ever could. That was the case when Wang Yibo Xiao Zhan stepped onto the Cannes 2025 red carpet in attire that was nothing short of regal. These weren't just costumes for a photo shoot. These were handcrafted masterpieces rooted in Chinese tradition, designed with the spirit of the Tang dynasty and the elegance of imperial China. Their robes flowed with deep reds, jade greens, and threads of gold, embroidered with dragons, phoenixes, and sacred symbols of prosperity and wisdom. To the untrained eye, they were beautiful. To those who understood the meaning, they were a tribute to centuries of heritage. But instead of being praised for celebrating their culture, the two stars were told their outfits were non-compliant with protocol. Just like that, what was meant to be a proud display of Chinese identity was quietly brushed aside, dismissed, even shamed. For many viewers, especially women who've carried cultural pride through decades of change, this moment hit hard. It raised a painful question. Why is Western fashion always welcome, while traditional Asian garments are labeled inappropriate? Was it truly about rules or about whose rules get to matter? In a world that preaches diversity, this felt like a cold reminder. True respect isn't in slogans, it's in action. That night, their clothes didn't just sparkle, they spoke. They told a story of a culture ready to stand tall, even when the world looks away. Behind every public moment lies a private power struggle. To the world, the Cannes Film Festival is the pinnacle of cinematic prestige, a place where artistry reigns supreme. But for many Asian stars, it's also a battleground, not of talent, but of perception. When Wang Yibo Xiao Zhan were halted on the red carpet, official statements quickly tried to smooth things over: a miscommunication, a scheduling error, a protocol adjustment. But the truth echoed louder in the silence that followed. For decades, global stages have been dominated by Western standards of beauty, of fashion, of storytelling. And while Cannes has claimed to embrace diversity, this incident ripped off the mask of inclusivity. Because let's be honest, if those same outfits had been worn by European royalty as a fashion statement, would they have been stopped? This wasn't about thread or tradition, it was about power and control. Many believe Wang Yibo Xiao Zhan were quietly punished for refusing to conform. Their choice to showcase traditional Chinese elegance wasn't seen as celebration. It was seen as defiance. For millions watching, especially women who've lived through political change, who know the quiet pain of being overlooked, this wasn't just about two celebrities. It was a reflection of the ongoing challenge for Asian voices to be seen, heard, and valued without being filtered through a Western lens. And so, their silence on that carpet became deafening. It spoke of restraint, dignity, and an unwillingness to bow when dignity is at stake. Because sometimes the most powerful protest is grace under pressure. When two stars are silenced, millions rise to speak. Just hours after the red carpet incident, social media erupted. From Weibo to Instagram, from TikTok to Twitter X, hashtags like hashtag justice for Yibo Xiao Zhan, hashtag cultural respect, and hashtag proud of my culture surged to global trending. And this time it wasn't just fans. It was mothers, educators, artists, and people from all walks of life standing up, saying, "Enough is enough." One viral post by a retired professor in Shanghai read, "When our children wear their roots proudly, they should not be punished, they should be honored." That sentiment echoed across borders. Videos of young Asians dressing in traditional attire flooded platforms, reclaiming pride in what once was mocked or ignored. Elderly women shared stories of how they once had to hide their heritage to blend in, and how moments like this give them hope for a world where difference is strength, not shame. Mainstream media couldn't ignore the noise. Coverage spread from China Daily to BBC, from the New York Times to Le Monde, painting this not as a fashion mishap, but as a cultural flashpoint. And as more influencers, celebrities, and public figures lent their voices, a clear message took shape. This isn't just about two men in embroidered jackets. This is about visibility, respect, equality. In a world still learning how to celebrate differences without tokenizing them, this event became a mirror, reflecting not only the industry's blind spots, but also the collective longing for dignity. And what started as a red carpet freeze turned into a global thawing of ignorance. The awakening has begun, and it started with silence that spoke louder than words. Not all battles are loud. Some are fought behind the eyes, beneath the skin, within the soul. As the storm of public outrage grew louder, Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan remained quiet.
No angry interviews. No defensive statements.
Just silence, measured, poised, deliberate. And to many, that silence was not weakness. It was strength in its purest, most painful form. Imagine standing before the world's cameras, knowing you are being judged not just for who you are, but for what you represent. For two young men who have spent years rising from humble beginnings to international fame, this moment was supposed to be one of triumph. Instead, it became a test of their character. Wang Yibo, known for his discipline and calm composure, appeared composed, but his clenched jaw told another story. And Xiao Zhan, often praised for his emotional sensitivity, kept his gaze steady, but his silence spoke volumes. For fans, especially older women who have seen how society often expects others to smile and stay silent, this moment pierced the heart, because they recognized the expression, the quiet endurance, the forced dignity, the kind of strength that comes not from fighting back, but from choosing not to fall apart. There's a particular kind of pain that comes from being told indirectly that you don't belong, that no matter how hard you've worked, how beautifully you carry your culture, it will never quite fit the mold. But both men chose dignity over drama. They didn't give the world a scandal to consume. They gave it a mirror to face. And that is what makes them truly remarkable. Not just as stars, but as men. Because in a world obsessed with noise, they taught us the power of quiet resistance. They stood tall without saying a word. And in doing so, they reminded all of us, especially women who've had to do the same their whole lives, that strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is found in silence and in self-respect. In a world that often demands we fit in, sometimes the most radical act is simply standing tall in who we are. What happened at Cannes 2025 was more than a red carpet incident. It was a cultural reckoning. And while Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan may have walked in silence, the echo of their presence and their pause has reached corners far beyond France. They've reminded us that representation is not decoration, that to wear our traditions, our stories, and our histories with pride is a right, not a privilege granted by others. For many of you watching, mothers, grandmothers, teachers, guardians of heritage, you've likely seen this pattern before. The world applauds when culture is exotic, but shrinks when it challenges the norm. Yet, you've kept traditions alive in kitchens, in lullabies, in embroidery, in stories whispered at night. Now, a new generation is doing the same on red carpets, in films, in music, and online. And they need us. They need you to keep encouraging them, to tell them they are enough exactly as they are. Because this moment was never just about two celebrities. It's about us. About how we carry our past forward, how we teach the world to see us. Not through stereotypes, but through truth, beauty, and strength. So let's keep the conversation going. Let's share our stories. Let's lift up our voices, not in anger, but in unity. Let's remind the world that diversity isn't a problem to be solved. It's a treasure to be embraced. Leave a comment below. What did you feel watching Wang Yibo Xiao Zhan's moment? Have you ever faced a moment where your culture was misunderstood? Your voice matters. Your story matters. And together, we can shape a world where difference is not silence, but symphony. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay proud, stay true, and keep standing tall.